Time for sound design. In today's video, I'm gonna explain how I made the soundscape you're now hearing. So the idea of this soundscape is that I used out-of-sync loops that are layered together that form a continuously evolving and changing ambient soundscape. So I will go into Ableton and show you all the layers and the way I performed this arrangement with the MIDI faders. This is the Ableton session. As you can see, there are 8 layers of 8 sampled instruments. I took these instruments from my own library of sounds, and I will walk you through each layer, show you what sound it is, how I created the composition, and in the end of the video I'll actually perform this soundscape. The soundscape is written in D minor, and starting with the first layer, the sound, if I just play on the keyboard, is this. And this is a room tone that I recorded with a microphone and then boosted a lot in volume and had some and put some effects on it. And as you can see, the loop is 3 bars, and I'm playing an F and an E. And this loop is repeating throughout the entire piece. So moving on to sound number 2. This one is another instrument that I made myself, and I made this from a Sharpie on a metal surface, so scraping that and then recording it. So it's a very textural, noisy sound. And what I play is a D and then an A, B flat. But this is just layer 2. The first layer is a 3-bar loop and the second layer is a 7-bar loop. That means that it takes 21 bars for it to sync again. So for the first 21 bars, they're out of sync, then they start over and the loop basically repeats. And this is sort of the technique that I use throughout this piece, to have every layer with an odd number of bars so that it never really syncs up, or it takes at least a very long time for it to sync up. So if I now play the first 2 layers together, you can already hear this sort of out of sync approach. So moving on to layer number 3. So this is a synthesizer sampled into simpler and then a bunch of effects, and then I play the following notes. And this is a 5-bar loop. Layer number 4 is also a shorter, it's actually only 1 note, only an E, and it's a 3.5 bar loop. So it's a little percussive sound. It's from a no input mixer session where I recorded a bunch of sounds. Very subtle. And then layer number 5 is a 2.75 bar, so a 2 3/4 bar loop, and it only plays 1 note as well. So it is a little kind of noisy sound. So those are the first 5 bars of the soundscape. And the last 3 bars here in blue are a little bit different. So it's basically the same instrument 3 times, but I play 1 note for each. So the first layer 6 is an A, layer 7 is a C, and layer 8 is an E. So together that makes a chord. And they play the same instrument and it sounds like this. So it's kind of a drone. It's also a room tone. If I play layer 7, it's just higher. So the idea here is that you should see it as an oscillator that continuously plays, and if I turn up the volume, I can make a mix of these. I can create a full chord or a broken chord or only 1 note. So now that I have those 8 layers, I can of course create the arrangement by taking stuff, muting and unmuting and adjusting the volume of the different layers to create some kind of arrangement with like an intro and a chorus where you hear everything and an outro and all that. This is how I would typically do it. But then I saw a video from Hans Kulk at Willem II Studios I'll link it down in the description. And he talks about static synthesis, and he uses test equipment, basically oscillators that drone the entire time. And he uses a analog mixer to manipulate or to perform with those oscillators. And I thought that's a really interesting idea. And now that I have these loops in Ableton that are just continuously going, I can do something similar. So I have a MIDI controller, the Icon Platform M Plus. I'll show you a picture now. And I have 8 faders that are controlling the volume of the 8 channel volumes in Ableton. And I wrote down on a piece of tape at the bottom what are the different channels. So the first one is a bass and a noise, melody, percussive sound, this kind of melodic squeak. And then the last 3 are the drone, A note, the C and the E. So how I create an arrangement for this soundscape is to basically hit play in Ableton and record the automation. And then I use the faders that I have in front of me to bring stuff in, take stuff out, adjust the volume for the different parts. And I have written down what's on each channel, so I don't have to look at Ableton. I can just look at my mixer, perform it, basically. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I don't have a camera on my faders, but I will show you Ableton, and you can see the different automation lanes changing, and of course you can hear it as well. So yeah, this is the performance of the soundscape with the MIDI faders in front of me. And as you can see in Ableton, there is a lot of automation going on. So it's all of the volume automation of the different channels. Yeah, when I make soundscapes, this is the way I do it, or this is a way to do it. And now I would just export this as a track. Maybe I would make it the loops a bit longer so I have more time to get into it. It's a bit short now. And of course, especially with the track 6, 7 and 8, I use now A, C, E, so it's a bit standard. You want to have maybe one more note or a different note so you can create different kind of maybe more interesting chords. But this is the basic idea. If you're interested in these kind of sampled instruments, I have a sample pack on Gumroad with 50 sampled instruments. These ones that I use today are not in it, but there's a lot of great stuff in there. So go check that out. Let me know how you create soundscapes, what kind of technique you use, what kind of controllers you use, what kind of sounds you use. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments and see you in the next one.